All right, so let's look at HR 1, which is the budget bill that Republicans were able to pass out. Can you talk about the biggest impacts that that's going to have on your state in particular? Because, of course, Republicans aren't looking to talk about this thing anymore. They got what they needed, which is their tax cut for millionaires and billionaires and a wealth of funding for ICE, which, we're seeing the consequences of that right now. And as far as they're concerned, the bill doesn't exist anymore. But the reality is that the impacts of this bill are going to be far-reaching, especially in the states. So what's it going to look like in Colorado?
It's so bad so quickly in that we had a budget surplus in Colorado. Every Coloradan was set to get a tax refund. We call it a TABOR refund. Every Coloradan would get, $100 or whatever it was. Not only was that surplus wiped out by this bill, but it put us into deficit in the current year because of the concurrent tax changes with state law. So we are now, I've called our legislature back. They're coming on Thursday. They're going to have to cut health care, cut a lot of the things that we care about just because of that bill in the first year. And that's not even getting into what lays ahead. Medicaid cuts, year 2, year 3, SNAP cuts, SNAP matches, social safety net is going to be devastated. We're not even there yet. That's a couple years out. I had to call them back this year for the year we're currently in. And because unlike Congress, Colorado and most states have to balance our budget. So we were in balance and had a surplus. The minute President Trump signed that bill, and I know we're not alone in this regard, we have a deficit. We're going to fill it. We're going to do it responsibly, but it's going to be even harder to get ready for the Medicaid cuts ahead in the social safety net as we make sure we take care of all Coloradans' healthcare needs.
What kind of an impact is that going to have on folks, not just in each respective district in Colorado, but especially those 4 Republican districts in Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, this was a very unpopular vote that Gabe Evans, freshman congressperson from a close district that went by a couple thousand votes to the Democrat, a couple thousand votes to the Republican. He owns those cutbacks to health care, to SNAP, that were, the cutbacks in state services. I'm sure he'll be reminded of that during the campaign. We have several great Democrats running for that seat. 3rd congressional district, Congressman Hurd voted for those cuts as well. So this is going to be an albatross around the neck of all the Republicans that voted for it, especially in rural areas where they've run up numbers the last few years, and both of those districts have some rural areas in them where the rural hospitals and residents are going to be hit the hardest.
How are you dealing with the fact that a lot of the impacts that they put forward for the deep cuts to Medicaid and food assistance were put there purposefully so that they wouldn't take effect until after the midterm elections? So the Republicans had to figure out a way to do some minor offset to their tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires, which already wasn't fully offset because this bill is going to add $4 trillion to the debt. But that notwithstanding, they wanted to make sure to extract the most money out of the poorest Americans and to do so with the least political consequences. And so how are you thinking about this in terms of your messaging to Coloradans, knowing that the worst impacts of this thing aren't even going to happen until after the election by design?
And that's right. And there's going to be a couple $100 million of cuts now, and we're experiencing that. But the cuts will be billions of dollars in year 2, in year 3, in year 4. And of course, you're going to have to pay the piper for these devastating cuts. And I think that while there'll be some people losing health care benefits right away, if they don't renew the tax credits for the health care exchange, we're estimating 100,000 Coloradans will lose their health care. That's only the tip of the iceberg, and it's going to get a lot worse. And it's important to continue to share the story, of the people today who are affected, and there are some that are affected as soon as January of this coming calendar year, but B, who's going to be affected in the future if we don't elect a Democratic Congress, Democratic Senate, and change the course.
Can I have your general reaction to the fact that really the people are going to be who are going to be hit the hardest here are the folks who rely on Medicaid and food assistance? These are seniors, these are disabled folks, these are children, these are folks who have illnesses, are in the hospital. Like, the fact that those are the people who were targeted so that people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump could enjoy an even bigger tax break for themselves. Just your general reaction to the fact that this is happening in light of the fact that Trump ran yet another populist campaign where he promised to really feel the pain of the little guy. He was talking about the cost of eggs, the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, got into office. First thing he did was launch a trade war that would exacerbate those high costs, but then, hand himself a tax cut that would benefit people in the top 0.1% of Americans.
And two points on that. One is that all of this budget change makes the deficit far worse. So it's actually increasing the federal deficit, the federal debt, which is a debt on all of us, a debt on the future ability to do things, upward pressure on taxes for everyday Americans. And of course, the tariffs, which are of already, I have two kids school age, already back to school items costing a lot more, 20, 30% more. That's just the start of it. I was talking to a major hardware retailer. They're not even able to restock certain parts. They said prices used to change once a year. They went up 3%. They've had prices change 5 times in the last 6 months, 10, 15% each time. And so these are regressive tax increases through tariffs. They're on everyday items that we purchase. It also hurts American competitiveness, manufacturing, ability to export. I heard from folks who are going to build factories here in Colorado, America. They can no longer do that because they can't get the parts and materials they need for manufacturing, and they're going to put their factories overseas instead. So it's hurting jobs, it's costing Americans, and of course, it's bloating our deficit.
Are people recognizing that pain, though, and attributing it to the right people? And I ask because, there is a marked difference between the right-wing media ecosystem and the left-wing media ecosystem. And, if the cost of eggs go up half a penny, you'll have everybody from Sean Hannity and Judge Jeanine all the way down to Newsmax, OAN, Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, Laura Ingraham, like the whole raft of the right-wing media ecosystem will be aligned on this because they are overt partisan political operatives. We don't have the same thing on the left. And so when prices go up 10%, 15% over and over and over as the result of Trump's trade war, there just isn't the same mechanism that we have to get the message out as they have on the right. And so I'm curious, that notwithstanding, are the asymmetry in the media notwithstanding, are people still recognizing that pain is happening and attributing it to the right place?
Well, hopefully they're all watching your show, Brian, and others like you. I mean, really, it's about getting the word out. Look, why do things cost more? It's because of tariffs, plain and simple. That's what's driving inflation, driving costs of consumer goods. Again, it's back to school time. The clothing on our kids' backs, their notebooks. There's import and export components for all of those manufactured overseas. America's been the beneficiary of low-cost goods. That's a good thing. It means the average American has more buying power. What a wonderful thing. That decreases with tariffs. It's a regressive tax. Lowest income, low middle income people pay the highest percentage. Sure, it does hit rich people, but a lot less of their income goes towards items that pay the sales that have tariffs, right? I mean, you can't consume. Elon Musk can't consume proportionally as much as his income. You just can't, you can't buy 10,000 times as much clothing. It just doesn't make sense. So it's regressive, and it hits low and middle income Americans hardest, and that's exactly what tariffs are doing. And I think increasingly people are saying, hey, why are those prices going up? Well, there's one simple reason. It's the taxes that Trump has put in through tariffs.
And finally, let's finish this, because you do govern a true swing state here. And so what has been, in your conversations with people across the state, what's been the most potent messaging that you've had in terms of being able to reach people on the other side of the aisle?
Well, in our state, with the H.R. 1 signing, the signing of that bill by President Trump took away your tax refund and forced the state to make cuts to health care. And of course, the fact that over 100,000 Coloradans could lose their health care, and that it's upward pressure on costs with the tariffs driving costs of everyday items. So that is what leads to this frustration factor with this administration in Washington. And of course, our state didn't go for Trump in the first place, but his numbers are even lower here today than they were in the election.
All right. Well, Gov, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Take care.